All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us this evening. I know we have some people in the room. We have some people at home as well, and I'm glad to see so many people taking an interest. Because obviously, when we talk about something like the master schedule, that really is like the background, the backbone of how our school runs. So for people that are used to our schedule, it's going to be as easy to navigate, perhaps even a little bit more. For students that are coming in new, I know we have some parents of some incoming sixth graders. They're going to pick it up, be able to pick it up very easily as well. And there are some great opportunities within this schedule too. Because obviously, if we're making a change like this, there's a reason for it. So we're going to talk through some of that, some of the advantages it has, both within that building and across the district, and we'll talk about what it offers for all of our students. So like I said, there are tremendous advantages within the building, but there actually are things that this is going to do that are going to have a beneficial impact district-wide. In terms of our staff utilization, it's going to realign our staff to increase team teaching opportunities. We work in grade level teams currently. Some of our teachers teach across grade levels. The way this schedule is made is going to allow teachers that teach in more than one grade level to participate in team meetings for both teams that they may be working on. Just as a quick aside, what team teaching enables us to do is have our teachers collaborate so that if there are grade level events that they want to plan, if there are, say, students that may benefit from people putting their heads together to say what's the best way to help this student, teaming really gives us the opportunity to do that very well. So this schedule is going to increase those types of opportunities. This is going to allow us to share world language teachers from our building with other buildings as well. For those of you that have students that have come up through Kiel and Stony Brook, you know that world language is done very differently in those places. Well, now in those schools, they're going to have world language taught by certified world language teachers, very talented teachers that we have here. We share with the high school already. We'll continue to do that as well. So there's a benefit across the district for that. And then these equitable teaching periods. So we're going to standardize the amount of time spent in periods across subject areas. You may know that now we have our classes for math and language arts, 40 minutes in the other subject areas. This is going to make that more consistent across the subject areas, and we'll talk about how advantageous that is. It's also going to allow us to meet special education needs, again, both within the building and then also to share staff with other schools as well. So it will increase the opportunities for pull-out resource classes. We are actually, so let me take a step aside here as well. Within our building in special education, we currently have 3 levels. So we have those students that need the most support. We kind of have a self-contained class, and those students are generally with each other for most of the day together. We then, as a next level, that's a little bit less supported, a little bit more independent, we have our resource courses. So those are students that may follow much of the day with their grade level peers, but then go to a particular class for, say, math or language arts. And then we have our in-class support classes, which are very, very common. These are students that have support through special education, but are in the mainstream classes, so in with others. So if you have a student in the regular education program and they are in a class that has co-teachers, that supports students that are in that in-class support model as well. So currently, for science and social studies, we generally offer under our current schedule, just the self-contained option or the in-class support option. That pull-out resource option is a very important kind of middle stage between those two things, and this schedule will allow us to offer that as well. Okay? We will also be able to provide some support within world language classes for students that may need that. And then better coordination across our life skills support and multisensory reading classes. Those provide very customized support for students that need it, and our ability to offer those things is we're able to target that much better under the way this schedule will run. And then flexible support options. So For example, you may know our guided study program, what is termed in many places basic skills, that provides additional support in math or in language arts. Uh, those types of classes right now, if a student is to take those, they pull them away from a cycle. This is going to be structured differently so that a student could get that kind of support and also have their cycle class as well, or their music class. Um, and then enhancing teacher planning time and coordination. Again, we talked about that teaming and how this schedule is going to allow us to enhance that. Access to planning with all relevant teaching teams. Again, allowing a teacher that works with students in multiple grade levels time to access those teams so that that type of coordination that teaming allows for us, those teachers have access to as well for all of them. Okay? So I don't know about you. I'm a very visual person. We can talk all day about this, but kind of just need to see it. This is what our current schedule looks like. Okay, it's 40-minute classes throughout the course of the day, but math and language arts are tied together. So to get that hour, math and language arts run across 3 periods, the first of which is either math and language arts. The middle is split, 20 minutes to the earlier period, 20 minutes to the later period, and then the other half of that. So while this allowed us to get more instructional time there, it was also very kind of constricting and limiting as we were scheduling because we had to lock students in for a 3-course sequence. You can see what those look like over there. And just so you know, all this that I'm sharing with you, we're going to post all of this after with a recording of the meeting, so you'll be able to go through this at your leisure as well. What this schedule is going to look like, what we are moving to in the 24-25 school year, now you'll see that it's a lot more standardized. So our classes are moving into 50-minute periods, except in this 4 or 5 middle of the day. So major classes 1, 2, and 3. These are also where our cycle periods exist. So right now, every 6th grade student has their cycle period 1. That will still be the case. Period 2 for 7th grade. 8th grade was period 4 this year. It'll move back to period 3 where it used to be for that. You'll see, like right here is the sample schedule. This would be a 7th grader because they have their cycle in there. And you see how their math, science, social studies, PE, and health, and English lay out there. In these middle periods, 4 and 5, there's lunch and then this COLT period. COLT stands for Custom Option Learning Time. I think that's really cool. I wish I had come up with it. Credit to Mrs. Trombetta, who has also done a tremendous amount of work with scheduling and even with this presentation as well. So, fantastic job for her. This COLT and lunch period really opens up a lot of cool new things that we'll be able to do. Also allows us to approach some of the things we already do in a different type of a way. And I think that's certainly going to be beneficial for students and also something that they will enjoy. Okay, so cycles, to anyone who is a current student at PRM, this is all going to look very familiar. Our 6th grade cycles are and will remain art, robotics, full value, and personal finance. 7th grade cycles, art, robotics, computer programming, and personal finance. And then 8th grade cycle, art, robotics, computer programming, and personal finance. Same cycles that we currently run. For those of you that are new to our building, we run on an A day, B day schedule. So what your cycle is, like for example, where this says day A, if I'm in the first marking period and I have art first period, every A day, that's where I'm going to go. Okay? Where we are doing something differently is how we are fitting world language into the schedule. So the way it has worked previously is students would be asked as they came into 6th grade, what language do you want to study for the next 3 years? A big decision to make at that point, and they've had some background with world language, but not really in depth. And so what we saw was, students sometimes having desire to say, can I switch languages? But at the point that would be available, you're already a year into it, and so you would be behind making that move. So what we are going to be doing is each 6th grader will take half a year of Spanish, half a year of French. After that point, they will then decide which of those languages they want to study in 7th and 8th grade. Okay, so they'll take it for 2 marking periods each. Again, either Spanish to start or French to start the year. In the second half of the year, the languages that they didn't take. That will be every other day. It'll alternate with their cycle. And then when they go into 7th and 8th grade, one of their days throughout the course of the year will either be French or it will be Spanish. It depends on what they choose. And again, they'll be making that choice, having a lot more experience with the language than what is currently available. Okay. Now, in the cold period, that also runs on an A day, B day. So that was, if you remember that other slide, we're talking 4th and 5th period. So your child will have lunch either 4th period every day or 5th period every day. The other period will be this COLT, or custom option learning time period. This is where music will be, so band or choir. We will still have lessons throughout the day as well, like in smaller groups, the instrument groups. That's going to remain the same as it does. And then we do have a handful of students that do both band and choir. We've maintained the ability to do both of those things in this schedule as well, so for those students that want to do it. On the other side of it, and again, this is just day A or day B by example. It could be that their music will be on the B side of things and these will be on the A side. Guided study can work into here in either math or language arts. Life skills works into this period. Something that's really cool that we're going to be starting up is the Chromebook Repair Academy. This is where students actually learn how to repair Chromebooks. I don't know if you know this. There are quite a few broken Chromebooks. I mean, free labor might be one way to put it. We prefer to think of it as career training. But it's like, it's a really cool kind of a thing. You know, middle school is the perfect nexus of, wow, there's a lot of broken Chromebooks here, and there are ways to learn technical skills to actually fix these things. And we know too, like those same students that are so into robotics and things like that, that come to computer club and love to get into it, into the nitty gritty of all those technological type things. This is going to be a great opportunity for them. So that's something that they can do in there. We'll run an art enrichment. Currently, we have in the lunch period, Mrs. Lane has students that come out and spend some of their lunchtime with them. Well, we know we have a tremendous number of students that like that additional art, so there will be an option for that as well. World language enrichment. This is something that as students get up into 8th grade, now they'll have had experience with French and Spanish. They'll have had their full year every other day with Spanish or French, their chosen language in 7th grade. In 8th grade, they'll continue with that language. This is a way to do some even further study with it for those students that like to delve into that language, that are looking to pursue like the highest levels of language instruction that we have available. So those students will be able to take part in that. And then our guidance groups, or rather school counseling groups. So you may or may not know, our school counselors run a number of groups throughout the course of the year. Some of them are social friends type groups. Some of those are executive function groups, which means helping students work through just organizational abilities and things like that. Some of those are game groups, which again has just kind of a social bent to it, but allows people to come together and just spend time in a more relaxed environment, but really take some time to build up those social skills, but also have a time to have kind of a relaxed period in the day as well. So groups will run within this as well. What this means is when you buddy this up against what runs on the other side of it, which is lunch, that middle of the day for students is kind of like it's kind of a nice break within the day. They're certainly doing worthwhile things, no doubt about it. But particularly as you come into 6th grade, you move up to 7th, you get up to 8th. I mean, we ask a lot and demand a lot of our students, and they certainly rise to the occasion. They hit those 3 periods of those core academics. They have this in the middle of the day, and then 6, 7, 8, is back into those academics. And I think just the structure and flow of the day will be just certainly improved over what we currently have now. Oh, life skills. So students in the special education program, there are students that literally are learning just like basic day-to-day things that are, self-care type things and just, ways to kind of navigate the basics of the outside world. Um, so some benefits of this schedule: longer class periods for social studies and science. We can delve more deeply into those subjects. It gives us more time for greater engagement in hands-on activities, experiments. Shorter class periods for ELA and math. Now the question is, number one question, and certainly this is the first question we asked of ourselves is, well, okay, but if we go to this, can we cover all the things we currently cover in our language arts and math curriculum? And we can. We certainly can do that. I think where we will see a benefit with this, because one of the things that we have heard is like, as we currently do an hour of math, as we currently do an hour of language arts, on their own, students generally are great about handling that. There are certainly times where that back-to-back hour of two pretty intense subjects can be a bit much for some of our students. So, being able to separate those things within the day and just have it be within the flow of those consistent 50-minute periods, I think will help, again, help students stay focused and help reduce some fatigue they might otherwise feel. Okay? And again, moving those math and language arts classes, not forcing them to be contiguous with each other, gives us much more ability to balance class sizes across the board. Because when you're locked into that 3-period sequence, essentially what we had when scheduling was you had your morning math and language arts people and your afternoon math and language arts people. When you start working into different levels of math classes, or now when you get up into 8th grade, different levels of language arts classes as well, it locks students into places where it wasn't just like a nice even spread across the board in terms of student numbers and classes. So this is going to allow us to balance those classes much better simply by not requiring that those subjects were back to back. And then that unit lunch, so when we talk about unit lunch, we're essentially talking about that lunch and cold period together in the middle of the day. Right now, we run 2 lunches in the middle of the day. So in terms of cafeteria capacity and everything like that, all that is going to look the same. But where our students go from lunch right now back into one of their academics, or go from an academic right into lunch, now we have that cold period on the other side of it. And as we talked about, that cold period just gives more opportunities to open up some different types of things than we've been able to do. So I talked a lot at all of you. What questions do you have for me? And also, for anyone at home, if you would like to email in questions, you can email my address, mongonm@kinnelon.org, mongonm@kinnelon.org. Yes.
So are sixth graders able to skip their language for seventh grade, or are they locked into the language already? I know in the past they could, if we did to go into the lower level, for like freshman Spanish, is that going to still work for next year, especially for Spanish students that really didn't have the year of core language?
Right. So I will give you a tentative yes. I have to look at, as we've rewritten the curriculum, because their background is going to be a little bit different going into it than what students that come into this program new are going into. Certainly that's something that we can look at. Yes. Sure.
Okay, so as far as the full period, is that like a daily choice, or are they commit for the cycle, or a year long? How does that work?
So yes, they'll commit for a period of time, and we still will look at how that lays out. Like for example, when we look at the Repair Academy, we want to look at how many students we have interested in it, and then we would kind of go from there because we want to give everybody access to the things that they want to do. but we would have to cycle enough people through that we were never overloading it at any point, but still giving them an opportunity to do it. I think if we did it as just like daily, hey, go where you want to go, it would get a little scattered and hard to keep track. And I think just for, the sake of, number one, us being able to account for everybody at all times, and then also consistency for the students and just giving them predictability in their routine, that will be something that's done on like a marking period or semester basis.
My daughter doesn't participate in any of those things. She doesn't do dance or choir. Maybe she can do the arts enrichment, life skills, basic stuff. Like, none of that applies to her. So, does she get assigned something, or is it a Google form? Like, how would that happen? Because I think that's going to be a lost period for her.
A Google form will be coming out with choices
Okay.
that lays out, what are the different options during those times, and she'll be able to pick from that. So I think one of the things that has always been a priority for us in middle school is helping kids get opportunities to find things that they may not know they like yet. That's a big part of it. 'Cause I think back to myself at that time too, and it was just like, you know, I don't know if I want anything that would force me to kind of come out of my shell. It wasn't the thing I would most naturally take to. But some of those times where you have that opportunity, it's just like, well, you got to pick A or B here, and I look at A and B and go, I don't know about this. You know, those are the times where you find out, oh, you know what? Maybe I do like this, or, well, I was right, I don't like this, so I'm going to try something else the next time.
If you took the world language enrichment, would that give enough opportunity for more build up for the world language? Because I guess my concern is like, I don't know if everyone's aware, but like basically by only having world language every other day, there's very little opportunity for those kids to like hit AP, Spanish or French in the high school. Like zero chances, right? Because now you're coming into ninth grade already having Spanish 1 done. So if you had the world language enrichment, would that give you an opportunity to perhaps test into Spanish to be with the freshmen?
Yes, it's actually specifically what that's designed for. I'm glad you asked that question, and so everyone can hear at home. So the question was about world language enrichment in the full period, and if you take that, does that allow you to enter high school going into the second level of a language, and then move on from there to the highest level that we offer? And yes, from the get-go, we worked with Mrs. Sapio, our world language supervisor, to make sure that that opportunity was there for students that want to pursue it. Sure.
Just following up from that, but isn't the enrichment only for 8th grade, not for 7th and 8th?
So what we do in 6th and 7th, we'll put 8th graders in a position that if they take their core language plus that world language enrichment, it'll be enough to get them in.
Okay, so they only 8th grade, not.
Yes,
Okay,
correct. Correct.
So I understand the structure of the breaking up the math and language arts, so it's not so heavy back to back, and I like the idea of like the midday break, but, the bottom line is like, I'm concerned that our school scores don't really reflect that we can afford less math and language arts minutes. And I know like an hour is a long time and maybe they're not working on tasks for the full 60 minutes now, but I don't know, like it's just kind of hard for me to swallow to think about like we're cutting something when they still need instruction there, or practice, or enrichment, or extension activities, or reteaching, like whatever it is. I don't know. It just feels like maybe it could be looked at differently to say, okay, in the 60 minutes we're going to do 30 minutes full group and 30 minutes of different small group differentiation activities or something like that. So that's my personal concern. What's the teacher response or feedback on not having the 60 minutes? Are they in agreement that they don't really need the 60 minutes, that it's excessive?
Yes. Well, so I don't think anybody is going to say, well, this is excessive. If you give a teacher time, they'll take as much time as they can to do all of those things. But as far as what you're saying, like, I know when we talk about it like this, it just comes down to a two-dimensional, here's minutes on paper, I see fewer, so it must be less of a thing. And it's much more, multifaceted than that. But the bottom line is, like, this is not a move we would make if we thought this would compromise our ability to teach what we teach in math and language arts. So across the board, our teachers are well equipped and well ready to make sure that they're giving our students everything that they need in both of those subject areas across 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, across all the levels that we teach those.
I honestly, I agree, I'm surprised about that too, especially with math. I know that, in the first math, they already get an extra 10 minutes or 15 minutes the next day, because they give you enough time to take that. So,
Yeah. Well, and like I said, again, it comes down to like that our teachers certainly have the ability, the knowledge to and the expertise to get through everything that they need to get to. Like I said, if this was something that was going to compromise our ability to do it, then we wouldn't do it. It's just it would be too, that would be too much of a sacrifice. But we have the ability to. I mean, there was a time where we taught math in 40-minute periods in the building. So we've gone about this in different types of ways. But again, I say with complete confidence, we'll be able to get our students everything that they need in math and language arts. Yeah.
is this a done deal for the state, or is this over the form?
This is the schedule that we are going to run. Yes. Yes.
Okay, so with our children losing out on so much language time, is it directly from the mom and class?
No.
That
This,
was deciding our children?
no, and again, I mean, I know, I understand looking at it, you're like, well, it's 10 minutes less, so obviously then you can't do what you once did.
No, it's
It's,
not. It's every other day. Fine.
oh, world
World
language.
language.
World
World
language. Yeah. No, within world language, again, there too, we certainly have the ability to give. I mean, to give a daily period of that is a lot more than a lot of other places do. But in the end, what everything that we do comes down to, what is it? Well, first of all, what are the standards we're required to teach? Are we going to be able to get that content across to the students? And are we going to be able to offer them the same opportunities that we have? And in this case, the answer to all of that is yes. We will still be able to get there, yes.
Just to follow up with something she asked, when it was the class A and B, I think I'm just confused on one thing. I know right now it's band or choir or performing arts, and everybody's doing it. And she used an example of, her child and other children not doing band or choir, so they would have performing arts. I didn't see that. So if some children don't do band or choir, what happens to them on that day? Does everybody have to do one of those two? I wasn't clear on that.
The vast majority will. We are also looking at putting in place a public speaking option that some students could potentially take in there as well.
What about the B? Can somebody do the B portion all 5 days, or does it have to be one of them?
No, it would be, because those things run every other day, so that we can get as many students through those things as possible. Because if we lock the student into the same thing all the time, they'd be taking away a potential slot for the student on the other side. Yes.
So day A is only been required, we don't want to use
It will not be music appreciation. Like I said, we're looking at putting in place a public speaking option for students that would like to do that. But the majority will be in band and choir with there are some exceptions to that as well. Like, for example, a student might take, guided study in both language arts and math. So there are, just as there are now, there are some exceptions to that, but the vast majority of students will that. Even looking at our current numbers for music appreciation, those are very small compared to what our grade levels are.
The guided study, is that long-term anything that's recommended for children to attend, or is that
Yes.
going to be an option?
That's by recommendation.
Okay.
Because we want to keep those classes small.
Small
but really
classes are really
bite-sized.
important to those situations.
Yes, 100%.
So how is it possible that you can do band and choir if they're both on AB?
Oh, that was just an example what was up
Okay.
there. So someone might take band on an A and choir on a B.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the beginning, we'll most likely do it through a Google form. We're making that transition to real time, so there may be a way to do that through that, but typically those will be the types of things that we do through a Google form. So like, for example, parents of the rising sixth grade class, the ones coming in, are going to be seeing that very soon, like picking music options and things like that. So that will be coming out here. Band and choir are, once you're in that for the year on the every other day basis. Obviously, if there were some, uh, critical circumstance that emerged and we needed to talk about that, then we could, but typically that would just be for that period. Yes. Typically, yes. Yes. That's what we're looking at it right now. Again, some of that is going to be dependent upon, what the demand is for it and how many students we want to cycle through it. If you just had a small core group that wanted to do one thing through all that time, and we could devote those resources to it without pulling away on an opportunity from another student, then we could look at doing that.
So like you said, if for someone that wants to do, let's say, sending a friend to high school, possibly honors to, they would definitely need to do world language enrichment.
Yes.
What if it doesn't work out in schedule?
Well, we would just prioritize that for them. So they would have to go into that in order to be able to do that.
For all the market periods.
For all 4 market
So
periods.
they would have to give up either band or choir.
Correct. Right, which is typically, what's that? They could not do both band and choir. They could do band or choir. Right. Right. Just in general, though, the number of students that choose to do both band and choir is very small compared to other things. But it's still something we want to make available to those students that want to do it. Here as well. Okay, so one question that came from home: during the call, will there ever be like a study hall or an opportunity for extra help? Yes, we are going to look to open up opportunities for extra help within that too. Much of that is dependent to, like our team schedule, that team period that we talked about. Teachers will be meeting during that time as well, but we will look to provide, extra help desk opportunities for that also. I know, again, a lot of information, a lot to digest all at once, but I will be sharing this presentation, the recording of tonight's video, and then, as you think about it, if other questions come up, certainly don't ever hesitate to reach out. Yes. That will come before the end of the school year, but it's probably going to be, it'll be in June.
Are they going to get this? So I find that sometimes, like, right now, like, Google Forms and stuff are going directly to my child, and then I'm not even, like, seeing them. So are they gonna come to us as adults to help them through these training?
So with, so with something like this, what we will typically do, because in middle school, it is good for students to get things and have that responsibility, but it should be accompanied with,
Yes.
dear parents, here is the email your students received today with their, their opportunity to pick a class as well. So yes, because I totally agree with you. If you look at the full range of our students, or even if I look at my 4 kids, there are those that it's like I wouldn't even have to think twice about it, and those that are like, just walk me through what it is that you just did right there, that type of thing. So. All right. Well, again, I want to thank you all for taking the time to come out. Everybody who watched as well, I really appreciate it. And this is the beginning of a conversation. As other things come up, certainly don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks, everyone.